Outfitters Camp is brought to you by Remington, Can-Am BRP, Quebec Outfitters, and Barnes Bullets. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Quebec Outfitters Camp. This week, the North Shore and its incredible natural gifts are in the spotlight as we head up the St. Lawrence River to Corneille River Outfitter in the Mégan Archipelago. From its granite perch at the mouth of the Corneille River, the Outfitters compound seems a hidden oasis where comfort and beauty intermingle, much like the fresh and salt waters surrounding it. The Outfitter holds exclusive rights to the first 20 kilometers of the stained Corneille River. And aside from the occasional seal, guests enjoy exclusive access to this majestic and wild body of water, where salmon, landlocked salmon, and brook trout coexist and thrive. Corneille River Outfitter was acquired by businessman Charles Huot in 2007, and countless improvements are now proceeding full speed ahead. Although no effort is spared to preserve the operation's remote and wild appeal, it is far from rustic in its approach to comfort. Here, the very best of the fishing life and the good life come together. For the first morning of our adventure, the anglers meet on the dock, from where they'll attack the river aboard freighter canoes well suited to the challenging terrain and tricky river runs. Guided by Irkael Saint-Amour, Martin Gravel gets ready to discover what secrets the Corneille River holds. It's the second week of June, and the salmon have barely started their run up the river. It will take skill and a great deal of luck to land one of these new arrivals. For the moment, our two fishers leave the pool and look elsewhere. It's not like they're short on options. The salt waters that bathe the island near the Outfitters compound provide a perfect refuge for sea trout, which are anadromous brook trout. A fly cast from the rocky shoreline to the river's calm surface can yield some impressive results. As Irkael's bent rod eloquently proves. Knowing that the salmon are mainly downstream at this time of year, the guide went to land them right at the source. He's hooked a black salmon, so named for the dark coloration it takes on after wintering in the river post-spawn. The salmon is released under house rules, and Martin now steps up to try his luck above the current. Before long, he too is fighting a resident of the Corneille River. Martin gets a surprise as he lands a landlocked salmon. This silver-sided, green-backed fish belongs to the same species as Atlantic salmon, but does not migrate and remains in fresh water. In the Montagnais language, Wananiche means little lost one. Corneille River Outfitter is not just about incredible fishing. It's also, and above all, a complete immersion in the natural beauty of the North Shore region and its pristine, unspoiled treasures. Here, the wildlife is so abundant and the scenery so majestic that you can't help but stop to admire them. The best way to fully enjoy this superb location is to feast and live like a king. At Quebec River Outfitter, refinement and quality go hand in hand in a fitting tribute to the majestic and beautiful surroundings. Today's lunch is crab sandwiches and Quebec cheese, perfectly prepared by the owner himself and shared with friends on one of the surrounding granite headlands. With the salt air stinging our faces and the eider ducks providing a noisy backdrop, it's hard to do better than this, even in the finest restaurants in the city. Because here, the city is miles and miles from our thoughts. One of the main attractions of the Outfitters territory is the Lac d'Angay waterfall. Last year, the Outfitter completed a massive project with the Quebec government to reduce the waterfall's slope by 7 degrees, opening a passage for salmon for the first time in its history. And as always, it's a good idea to target eddies, which are simply magnets for native brook trout of all sizes. As his client racks up the fish, Erkael breaks out his tackle box and changes flies. When his professional pride is stung to the quick, the guide could find salmon on the moon. Yet it's Martin who keeps rolling, hooking up with the superb brook trout bearing the species' characteristically vibrant coloration. Martin wraps things up with his second landlocked salmon. Lac d'Angay, with its cold, clear, well-oxygenated waters, provides a perfect habitat for this salmonid, whose delicious flesh nearly rivals its hard-fighting nature. Here, fine dining, total comfort, and good wine are just as important as the fishing. Located at the compound's entrance, the smoker provides a unique yet wholly traditional way to enjoy the day's catch. And it's also an opportunity to enjoy a refreshing beverage while you watch the guide at work. Once the fillets are ready, they're prepared with the Outfitter's secret blend of salt and spices. This step gives the fillets all their flavor while firming them up and preserving them longer. Before smoking became a hobby for gourmets and culinary handymen, it was an essential technique for preserving meat. Aboriginal peoples have used this method since time immemorial. The fillets are soaked for a specific number of hours, and then the brine is rinsed off. They're now ready for the smoker as the last step on their way to succulence. Juniper berries and cranberries can be picked a short distance from the main compound and are sometimes used to flavor your drink of choice back at camp. We warned you, at Corneille River Outfitter, when you're not on the river, you're enjoying life's pleasures. Or at least, you're getting ready to enjoy them. Another day begins, and our anglers are gearing up for the river. Charles Huot is joining them this morning. The trio have only one thing in mind: land Salmo Solar and make the Corneille River sing. Mother Nature seems to be on their side from the very first casts. Leaning back to counter the fish's fury, Martin fights one of the first Atlantic salmon to reascend the Corneille River.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
And this is one feisty fish. The stubborn salmon tests Martin's talents as a fly fisherman and forces him to watch the tension on his line with each leap. If Martin loses his focus for even a single moment, the fish could throw the hook and douse his plans for glory. Thankfully, the guide is on high alert and teams up with Martin to help him land a magnificent Atlantic salmon with the dark coloration characteristic of early season. And so far, this season is looking very good indeed. Smiling from ear to ear, he hoists the fish from the water for a few quick snaps before holding it headfirst into the current so that the fish can recover its strength after such a bruising fight. In war, as in fishing, your adversary deserves your full respect. It's a complete success for our duo. Nothing's better than a pounding heart after a long fight and the euphoria that creeps in after the adrenaline slowly fades. It's these short bursts of joy that make salmon fishing so magical, and it leaves you with but a single thought: catch another one. Unbelievably, a second salmon snatches the fly, so the arms-straining waltz can begin anew. The whine of the reel as your line is stretched to the breaking point, the thud of blood in your ears, and the cries of anglers around you, these are the sounds that make up the enchanting melody of the Corneille River. As extraordinary as it may seem, a second silver torpedo now glints under the North Shore sun. Martin is enthralled and will now forever be under the spell of the magical Corneille River. The fish is measured so that we can share the information with fisheries biologists on site for studies on the Corneille River ecosystem. It's then released with all due care in accordance with the outfitter's strict conservation focus. After this exciting morning, which far exceeded all our expectations, it's now time to head back to camp. Unfortunately, our adventure at Corneille River Outfitter is already drawing to a close. We hope that the juniper berries we gathered will help dull the sorrow that comes with the end of a glorious week of fishing. We relax in the comfortable loft while the first-rate chefs prepare a farewell feast featuring, as always, the very freshest and finest local ingredients. As we savor the succulent fare with the friendly staff of Corneille River Outfitter, it's time for us to say goodbye until we meet again next week for another episode of the Quebec Outfitters Camp. Quebec Outfitters Camp has been brought to you by Remington, Quebec Outfitters, Can-Am BRP, and Barnes Bullets.